This is so crazy. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is making an unthinkable statement right now. Bitcoin can't be stopped. It has never had a shutdown, and you can't break it. That's what he's tweeting and referencing here. Here, about the Democrats, who have still shut down the government, basically just blocking the government shutdown here. And that's exactly what can't happen with Bitcoin. This is really making waves now. What's happening here is huge. We also have a very important statement from Bloomberg about quantitative easing, which could be coming soon. Bloomberg gives us an estimate here of when this could start, when the money printer might get fired up, a bold statement from Tom Lee in a live interview, and much more. Guys, let's dive into all of this right now. Smash that like button down below. Higher Bitcoin prices for new all-time highs. And as a thank you, I'll show you this epic sunset here in El Son, at Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador. Let's fucking go. How epic is this? Seriously? Sometimes you just have to say thank you, universe. Really, really awesome. And yes, October has now officially closed. Not as positive as we thought it would be. Everyone thought October was coming. That wasn't the case this time. Maybe now November is coming. Let me know. Do you think November is coming? Or are we going sideways and down again? What's next? Let me know down below. So, what we definitely know is that the insider whale, the one who also, the Donald Trump, insider trail around the trade conflicts, traded it really well, has now closed his short position here. That means he's bullish again now, and that could mean things are about to go up again. And we also know that Bitcoin's fundamentals are stronger than ever before. I mean, just take a look at this. Could anyone have imagined something like this 1 or 2 years ago? This is honestly no joke. This isn't a fake tweet. You can go to the original profile of Scott Bessent, the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury. He literally says here, 17 years after the white paper, the Bitcoin network is still operational and more resilient than ever. Bitcoin never shuts down. And then he tweets at the Democratic senators here. Senate Dems, that's probably your Democratic Senate. He says, you could learn something from that. And that's basically exactly what he's trying to get at here. He's basically directly criticizing the Democrats' policies here, which are kind of blocking the whole system. There's a government shutdown. He says, Scott Bessent, yes, we need decentralized systems. And in a decentralized system, you can't just shut down the monetary system like this. That's always the problem with centralized systems. Someone might just not feel like it. Someone just says, yeah, that's how it is. I just don't feel like it today. Then the system gets shut down. Someone gets censored. Someone's bank account gets frozen. Or other things like that. None of that is possible with Bitcoin. You can never shut it down. You can never stop it. You can never bring it to a halt. And that's just a pretty bold statement. There were also some really intense comments underneath. People who totally lost it. Yeah, that's exactly what we voted for. The question now is, these are bullish statements. The Trump administration gets it. I mean, Donald Trump gets it. Howard Lutnick gets it. Scott Bessent gets it. Very, very likely. I mean, just listen to that statement. We have a really long list in the Trump administration. Basically, everyone in the Trump administration who's here now gets Bitcoin, supports Bitcoin, is a big Bitcoin bull. And the question now is whether you want to bet against that. Yeah, a lot of people are asking, why isn't the Bitcoin price skyrocketing if Donald Trump and all these guys have their pockets full of Bitcoin? Shouldn't the Bitcoin price be going up then? And Scott Bessent doesn't even have his pockets full of Bitcoin. He sold his Bitcoin, as far as I understood, before taking office because he just didn't want to have any conflicts of interest. And he just built up a broadly diversified ETF portfolio instead. But even if people in the Trump administration don't have any Bitcoin, at the very least they're pushing the Bitcoin price forward or helping to drive it up. That's almost insider manipulation. That's what's happening here. No, not really. But still, it's pretty wild what kind of times we're living in. And then we also have a very, very important statement from Bloomberg here. Specifically, this is about quantitative tightening and quantitative easing. We all know that QT will end in about 30 days. That means, potentially, yes. At least there will slowly be room on the balance sheet to switch back to QE. And that's always the phase when the Bitcoin price completely explodes, when active liquidity flows back into the market. And here, Bloomberg is making a really, really cool statement. The end of the QE program starting in December will pave the way for the resumption of bond purchases in 2026. So, the money printer will be fired up again, turned back on, according to Bloomberg. Since the liability of the Fed, naturally, the demand for bank reserves and cash increases. In circulation, the central bank could already be forced to buy government bonds as early as next summer. So it's not just that they could do this, but they might actually be forced to do it. And these government bond purchases, this QE program, which might even be called something else, will definitely be implemented. They won't call it QE anymore, because otherwise people will know what's coming. Then people will know, okay, now inflation is coming. Now asset prices are going up. They'll definitely call it something else. Here, they might call it something like a special fund, like they do in Germany, or something similar. Not debt, but a special fund. That is definitely a very, very strong statement. And yes, that's also what a lot of people need to understand. We haven't understood that at the moment. In the video before last, I explained it as well. Of course, the end of QT doesn't automatically mean that QE starts right away. There's still a small gap, whether that's half a year, a few months, or a year. But after this gap, it's very, very likely that QE could start here. That is, quantitative easing. Of course, in theory, it could also start right away, but it's unlikely that it will start immediately. And now, check this out here. Calmly on fire with a really, really intense discussion here together with Ricardo Salinas, the wealthiest person in Mexico, about Bitcoin and gold. And what's going on here? These are the pros and cons.
Think about the Bitcoin rationale, why investors buy Bitcoin. I think one of the principal things that draws them here is the idea that Bitcoin is digital gold. It's a store of value in a world that's increasingly digital.
So the idea that Bitcoin is a kind of digital gold is already something that a lot of people see here.
What do you all think about the idea of, is Bitcoin going to be attractive if gold itself is available on the blockchain, so that if gold becomes digitized and we can buy it as easily as we can buy Bitcoin, would we still want to own Bitcoin?
The thing about tokenized gold is that you still have the counterparty risk, and you might show up there and there might not be any gold. The thing about Bitcoin is that the token itself, once you have it in your address, that's it. It's final settlement.
Ricardo Salinas, he's just incredibly smart. That's why he has most of his portfolio in Bitcoin. And now the question was simply, okay, we have gold, and we can digitize that too. Can we make tokenized gold? Can we make gold blockchain coins or something like that? Hey, gold coin 2.0 on the blockchain or something like that. And he said, yeah, of course you can do that. But hey, guys, there's still a third-party risk involved. And that's exactly the point. We're using a blockchain to basically eliminate third-party risk. That's exactly it. That's what's awesome about Bitcoin. But if we end up with a custodian again, someone we have to trust, because that's always the issue. When we try to connect the digital world with the physical world, we always run into the trust problem, where we need a validator again who can actually verify whether gold that's on the blockchain. How do we know if it actually still exists in the vault? Or think about it differently. Let's say, look, now we have coconuts, and we put coconuts on the blockchain. Suppose we now put the coconuts on the blockchain, and you can do that. Then you have the coconut blockchain token on your hardware wallet. But what happens if, in the real, physical world, the coconut suddenly starts to rot? Or let's say your neighbor is hungry, he steals your coconut, and now your coconut is gone. You might still have the coconut blockchain token, but in the real world, the coconut no longer exists. That means you basically always have to rely on a trusted third party who checks in real time whether the coconut still exists in reality or if it's gone. And that's exactly the really, really big problem, that we have to rely on trust for everything except Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, we don't have this trust issue. And that's the really, really big difference. And also the final settlement, as he says here, means we have a final transaction. And that's just not the case with everything else. With everything else, it's just some kind of trust-based stuff or something like that. And now it goes even further here. Nigel Farage, the potential new Prime Minister of the UK. So really one of the most relevant financial markets worldwide as well. Of course, that's not comparable to the US, but it's still a relevant financial market. He's talking about Bitcoin and says something very, very interesting here. Listen up.
We have a revolution going on, a money revolution going on with digital assets, cryptocurrency. It's real. It's growing very, very quickly. And what's happening here? Nothing. Literally nothing. And I think you'll see...
These are untested ideas in government, aren't they? I know you were talking the other day about wanting to have a national cryptocurrency reserve.
I'm really sorry.
We don't know what that looks like.
No, because we're years and years behind the rest of the world. Go to Miami. Go to Miami. Fly to Miami tonight. And you tomorrow morning can go out and buy everything from a Starbucks coffee to a Ferrari with a card that you've loaded up from an ATM in the street with Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other currencies. And the world is changing and we're not changing.
So actually make the claim that here in the UK, we absolutely have to go big on Bitcoin. He's basically criticizing the entire United Kingdom here, saying it can't be that we're missing out on this massive revolution. Crypto, digital assets, he says, this is a huge revolution, with Bitcoin of course included. And we're just sleeping through the whole thing here. You can go to Miami, and there you can pay for everything with Bitcoin. You can just load up a card and then pay with Bitcoin. And that's exactly what we want too. And he's already stood in front of the Bank of England and said, this is nonsense. What's going on here? Guys, you need to wake up here. You need to focus on digital assets. You need to focus on Bitcoin here. I mean, I'm always a bit skeptical myself. I always say the focus should be on Bitcoin only. But that's pretty wild, because I'm not really that deep into politics in the UK. But from what it looks like, Nigel actually has real chances of winning the election. So with that, we have the next major nation that could potentially have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. He's already announced that before, too. So I find this development really exciting. You can pay with Bitcoin almost everywhere here. For example, in El Zonte at Olas Permanentes, or really wherever you are. Recently, you can even pay the fruit vendors, the fruit stands, with Bitcoin here. That's important, too. That'll be at the meetup later. It's somewhere further back here. Of course, you could also pay with Bitcoin there. And finally, I just want to leave you with this. This is something that just popped into my head. Really go to places in your life, places that inspire you. It's just so awesome to be back here in El Salvador. Now I actually have several places around the world where I can just bounce back and forth. Portugal, El Salvador, and sometimes Germany. Of course, there are still plenty of other cool places in the world that I also want to explore. But don't stay stagnant. Really open your mind. Go out and explore the world. It's never been as easy as it is today with Bitcoin. And especially if you're at Bitcoin hotspots like here in El Zonte, it gets even easier. That always pushes you a bit out of your comfort zone. That's just something I wanted to leave you with. And yeah, otherwise, if you still want to buy Bitcoin, I'll put a link below for 21 Bitcoin. That way you can buy Bitcoin easily, safely, and simply. Use the code Bitcoin and you'll also save 20% on the fees when buying Bitcoin. So don't forget, Bitcoin is hope. Bitcoin is the sun. Let's fucking go. Bitcoin to the moon. And I'll see you around. Peace out.